So, hey, Dr. Carrier, how are you doing?
Doing well, actually. Yeah.
How'd you like your talk?
It went very well. Yeah, and some good questions too in the audience.
Oh yeah, I was trying to pay attention to so many things. I think I missed. Was there any particular question that you really kind of centered on, really found intriguing?
Not really. No. No. They were all interesting questions. I mean, I generally remember questions that I found less productive than the ones that I find more productive. But no, there was some good hitting the table there. No, there was some interesting questions about the issues, and it's interesting finding audiences that are very intrigued by certain things that come up and want to explore more. Because I obviously have to cut so much stuff from the slideshow to fit it in time, and it's always nice to have the opportunity to fill in a blank for someone that
Right.
So that was nice.
Well, and I have to say that I saw your debate with debating the historicity of Jesus, and you mentioned that actually got me to buy The Power of Parable.
Oh yeah.
And I've begun reading it and working that into my video series.
Yeah.
So, which I find really interesting. Is there I know in the debate he actually kind of strawmanned you a little bit with, let's see, there's one particular thing where a guy has two sons.
Yes.
He strawmanned you with saying that, representing these two different.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of wondering, do you encounter that?
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, they're always trying to rationalize their position, right? So they're always going to look for anything that they think that they can twist a certain way, or even they might even see it that way, right? Like they're not even really paying attention to what you're saying or what your argument is. They see it as something else and then attack the thing they think they're seeing, even though that's not really what you argued and so on. So I deal with that a lot in both philosophy and history.
Now, another thing, another book that you mentioned was Gospel of Fictions. I'm wondering, did you use that a lot with your research, just like these general books that were put out by other authors?
Gospel Fictions by Randall Helms. That was actually sort of a doorway into a whole body of literature. Not just by him, but by a bunch of other people. I did use some of his material, especially the stuff I could vet independently, and through my own skills and through the literature that there is. But also that made me realize, wait, is there more of this kind of stuff done? Like, he can't be the only guy. And then so I did a lot of researching into articles and things like that, and found a lot of peer-reviewed literature, books and articles of scholars doing the same thing, but on different passages of the Bible. So you pull them all together, and you can kind of cover the entire 4 Gospels with all these analyses, right? Just by pulling together all these different authors who've analyzed them in different ways. And so you'll see, there's a lot of examples in chapter 10 of On the Historicity of Jesus, where I've done a Randall Helms-like thing on a different passage that he didn't cover, using existing peer-reviewed literature where some scholar has done that already. So that was the main use for the book, and its value for the public is that it's a short read, it's an easy read, and it has some of the best examples of what's going on, the phenomenon of this kind of scripture updating that the Gospels represent.
Yeah, one part that, or at least the last part that I stopped on and I kind of wrote an episode for me to record, was him describing how myths have kind of evolved within starting in March, there's not a lot of special effects. But then as it progresses, he eventually gets more and more powerful.
That's right. Yeah.
But I'm kind of curious. Do you see that throughout the gospel, just it getting more and more spectacular?
You mean within the 4 or within all Gospels that we know about?
I guess just within all Gospels that we know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say whether there's a fixed trend, because you find certain other Gospels, like even the Gospel of Judas, for example, which was uncovered recently, looks pretty mundane. from the material that we have, or the Gospel of Mary, or the Egerton Gospel. These don't seem to be any more miraculous or amazing than the canonical Gospels. Sometimes they have little miracles in them, but they're not. There doesn't seem to be evidence of a trend in that sense. What I think we have is that Mark is more interested in the allegory than in the special effects, as you say. So that's the reason there's not a lot in there. And also, the special effects are either allegorical things like the walking on water and the whole what that means about faith and other aspects of what water represented in Judaism, especially stormy water represented. And also the whole idea of making Jesus the new Moses, there's some certain elements of that. So you have that going on, but you also have what Mark is doing is emulating miracles that actually happened in the church. So when Jesus does healings and exorcisms, these are models for actual healing and faith healing acts and exorcism acts that Christian missionaries are engaging in. So he's creating models for real things that happen. And you'll notice that like the amazing miracles are always private, and they're always with the disciples, and they always have some sort of symbolic theological meaning. But all the public miracles are just mundane, ordinary magic tricks that you would find any street preacher would be performing back then. But that's because he's modeling actual street preachers that were actually doing those things. Now, when you get the later authors like Matthew and so on, they want to make Jesus more grandiose. This was not a concern of Mark's. It was their concern. And so they're the ones starting to add the special effects and the changing things up, trying to clean up the things they didn't like about Mark and so on. And then you get to all the way to John, which has the most spectacular of all the special effects that makes Jesus look like the most awesome thing ever. And probably the only thing that goes beyond that would be like if you go to the infancy Gospels, like the infancy Gospel of Thomas, that has Jesus like just fantastically, amazingly, well, I mean, evil, but also like really amazing miracles he's doing. But that was a trend that was evoked by wanting to create their historical character to be more amazing and impressive. That was not the original concern of Mark when he was writing his allegory.
I don't mean or anything, but I'm kind of curious what the argument against this.
Oh, the Q story. Yeah, I didn't get to talk about that much in Q&A. Well, to explain to people who might not know, we know Matthew and Luke both copied Mark. I mean, it's because they quote him verbatim. They use most of the material, and but they also there's material in Matthew and Luke that's identical between them, that's not in Mark. And so there's been like, well, where did that come from? Is Luke quoting Matthew? That's the most likely hypothesis, in my opinion. Or is there another gospel that they're both quoting, something like Mark, but that has become lost? And the proposal is that existed, that there was some other gospel that they're using, and it's called Q because that's German for the letter for Quelle, the German word for source. So it's just sort of like a variable designating this lost gospel that we don't have. And so that's the Q hypothesis, and it became hugely popular over the course of the 20th century. But then certain scholars started questioning the evidence for it. The evidence is actually really weak, whereas the evidence for Luke copying from Matthew is very strong. And then you have certain scholars like Golder and Goodacre and many others. I cite all the best ones on the Historicity of Jesus, where I talk about the Q hypothesis. And when I looked at the evidence myself, I mean, I tried to find the best evidence for the Q hypothesis there was, and I just couldn't find any. Like, the best, most ardent advocates of it just don't have any arguments. Like, they're really weak. Whereas the authors who have arguments against the Q hypothesis, that it's all just Luke copying Matthew and changing it up, their case is really strong. So I think the Q hypothesis really should be dead by now, and I think it's just sort of the institutional inertia, this sort of refusal to like give up on this tradition that people have built their careers on, is preventing people from seeing the light on that. And I think that's sort of preventing progress on this issue.
To kind of change it up a little bit, how do you feel about people in the secular community that are reacting like really harshly to this idea that Jesus might be a historical figure? Because, I don't know if you've experienced it, but I know I have. Yeah. People get really angry about it.
I'd be curious if someone actually were to do like some sort of study of that. Like, why? Like, I mean, oftentimes you just respond to their arguments, but then, I mean, I haven't tried this yet, but to step back and go, dude, why do you care so much? Like, you know what I mean? So, and do you always get the same answer? Do you get an honest answer? Like, what? I don't know. Like, right? So, and I gave some answers, like some of the things that I think are going on in certain ways. in the Q&A, which I guess eventually the video will be up and you can look at that. But for me, I'm not sure that those. I think there are examples of those reasons. But I don't know if it explains all of it, right? I think there's different reasons for different people. Like the ones who get really angry about it, like what's that about? Like why is it so important to you to like be angry about it? I don't know the answer to that. Oh, here's a big one. I'm going to be speaking at the American Atheists Conference in Puerto Rico in August.
Really?
Yeah. So if you can get to Puerto Rico, then check that out. I think they're already advertising that. Let me see what else is on my calendar. The Idaho National Day of Reason. I'm going to be speaking at that in early May, so a couple weeks from now. Idaho National Day of Reason. I think that's going to be interesting. But I have a variety of other, just small events, but that's the closest thing to a conference.
I'm kind of curious. This year at American Atheist, they announced the next Reason rally. Are you going to be attending that at all?
Oh, wait, they did? When is that going to happen?
Well, it's going to be next spring.
I can't answer that question until I know when it's going to be. Yeah.
Well, I know it's going to be next spring, and the American Atheist.
Yeah, right. I'm aware of that.
I think that it's going to be right around the time they were supposed to have it.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a firm date.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know if I'll be there until I know when it's going to be. I have been sort of preparing a possibility of getting events around that time and place so that I could fund my getting out there. But I can't lock anything down until I have a date. So I don't know yet.
How about you let people know, where they can find you? And,
Sure. All things me are at richardcarrier.info. And you can get to my blog from there, you can get to my store, or you can get my books. My books are available in audio, Kindle, and print. I also have recommendations, like an Amazon store with my favorite and recommended stuff in philosophy, early Christianity, and things like that. And various other things, different kinds of writings and all of that. It's all accessible through there.
And I would like to highly suggest people get the Kindle version along with the audio version, because something cool that Amazon does with that is that if you listen to the audio version, it keeps up with where you are, and then it syncs it with the Kindle.
That might not work. Let's see. Wait, the audio version with the Kindle. That's called. It's called. I can't remember the name of that, but that might not work with my books. Because my audio is different than the printed text. Because what I've done is I've taken notes in the footnotes and I've integrated them into the text, just do a straight read, and left out all of the references. So that makes the text disagree. Even though all the content is there, it doesn't exactly disagree, or it doesn't exactly agree. So the whisper content, the ability of the Kindle to communicate with Audible, is gone. So you might not have that advantage for my books.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, still, I suggest getting the Kindle and the audio.
Yeah. Well, one is searchable, right? Is text searchable, and yeah.
And the other one you can
and portable.
On the ride to work.
Right.
Me, I've got a 20-minute ride into work every morning. And every night.
Well, and also the Kindle version has all the references. So if you want to check a footnote, look at what my references are, what my evidence is, what the scholarship is. That's not in the audio; it's in the Kindle version.
Yeah.
So,
and then you know what? If you get an actual book, you can get you to sign it.
That's true. And I do travel a lot, so good odds I might be coming by a town near you. And for people who want to keep up with that, if you follow me on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, just click follow. I don't have enough room left for more friends, but if you follow, all of my events and places I'm going to be get announced there. So you can see that in your notification stream, and you say, oh, look, Richard Carey is going to be in my town or near my town at such time. So if you want to be, up to date on that, that's the place to do it. So yeah, follow me on Facebook.
All right, awesome. I'll be sure to have all of his links down below, and I appreciate you so much for giving me this interview.
Yeah, no problem.
And I guess, are you doing the after party thing?
I am, for sure, yeah.
Awesome. I guess I'll see you there. Man.
Yeah, will do. Alrighty.